You ready to fire into it?
Let's get into it.
This is wonderful.
Let's get into it.
So, officially moving this thing forward now.
Yeah.
Growth Lab Podcast. My name's Glenn.
I'm Bri.
This is wonderful. Bri Scott, everybody. Glenn Owen, Bri Scott. We're here today because Bri is more than just what I'm going to say right now, but she is one of the best friends to my lovely wife, Louisa.
Oh,
She's
sweet.
Well, I think she's sweet too. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to or not. She's a wonderful nutritionist and coach, and she agreed to come onto the podcast today and to share all of her wisdom with us about nutrition, habit change, coaching, the influence of blood sugar and insulin. So I'm just thrilled to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here.
I want to delve into everything. But first, how you feeling?
I'm nervous.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How does it feel to say it and put it out there?
It's good. I'm releasing it.
Right? That's what it is.
Releasing it. No, I am excited. I'm excited to chat about, these important topics and something that I'm so passionate about. So
I feel like it's so important just to get those things out there. Though.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
I'm reading a really interesting book.
Breath it, release it, and it's gone.
Well, that's it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm reading a really interesting book right now from a guy who's a hostage negotiator for the FBI. And he talks about how if you can have someone or you can label an emotion for someone, they talk it and they say yes, they put it out there, it begins to dissipate everything. So I appreciate that you share that you're feeling anxious.
Yeah.
I'm slightly nervous too because I haven't done this in forever, but here we
We're
are.
talking.
Well, it doesn't seem like that. Underneath the surface, I'm like, who am I? I'm an imposter right now. This is terrible.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah.
So with all that in mind,
Yes.
let's get down to nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's get down to it.
Should we jump into it?
Ask me some questions.
Lovely.
I'm
gonna hit
here
you with
for.
I'm gonna hit you some hard, deep cellular stuff to begin with.
Get down. Okay.
What was your childhood like growing up?
Oh, deep. That is deep. That is a
Yeah.
deep question. I had a great childhood growing up. Two sisters,
Two sisters.
older and younger sisters. So I'm the middle child. Two wonderful parents. Grew up kind of moving around from my parents' work as pastors.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Grew up in a very faith-dominated family. But yeah, family was big and we were close and still are very close. And yeah.
What was it like growing up in a house that you said like full of faith?
That's a big question. Are we wanting to talk about religion and faith or?
I'm just curious what it was like. No, just curious.
No,
what it
that's
was
a
like.
really good question. I think it has ebbed and flowed throughout my years, but the older that I get, the stronger I become in my faith, the more that I value how I grew up and what's been instilled and how I look at God, and my faith is just a part of who I am now. And it's one of the most important things I would say in my life. So I'm very thankful that it's a part of my life.
See, this is so interesting for me because I already want to jump into the nutrition stuff, even though I said, hey, we're talking about, let's see how it was growing up, because I feel that when you have strong faith or belief, whether it is in a higher power or yourself, that leads to some unbelievable, incredible actions that you can take and then mold yourself into the person that you always knew that you could become, right? Which will be like a really quick, abrupt transition into how did you become a nutritionist?
It's a little bit of a long journey, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm 30, almost 36 years old, and I'm just finally, I think, feeling like I'm getting into the grit of my career. But I started out way back studying marketing, worked in insurance for a couple years, but all through that, even in my early 20s, I was like a gym rat, right? Just loved the gym, and that was my passion. That's what I lived for. And through that, I actually was considering, when I was working in insurance, I'm like, do I go back to school or do I study personal training? And through kind of looking into studying personal training, I kind of dove into the nutrition world and just kind of thinking to myself, well, if I want to be a personal trainer one day, I need to understand the fundamentals of nutrition. And so I started kind of researching, not having the best education in high school, to be honest with you. I was like, well, what can I do that can advance this passion of mine? And so I found the Institute of Holistic Nutrition in Toronto. And I didn't really blink an eye. You know those moments where it's like, it just feels like it's the right move? Like this instinct, this God-given instinct, that God moment that I call it. A conviction, I think, is really powerful. I've had multiple convictions in my life, one being, this career change, and marrying my husband. Those were two big things in my life where I felt like this is what I need to be doing, or who I need to be marrying.
Yeah.
Sorry,
What's his name?
It wasn't the same content. Michael.
Michael Scott?
Michael Scott.
Like The Office?
Like The Office.
Amazing. Oh, great. I was wondering how I was going to fit
Got that in
there.
there? No, that's good.
You just
It's a good
right
one. It's
me.
a good one. Michael Scott. You can't go wrong with that joke.
It's a great story.
Yeah. So anyways, I felt so convicted through just the passion of fitness and wanting to share just the joy and the need, and how much it can change people's lives. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing to this day. So I studied for, I think it was like a year and a half, like accelerated program. I got out of that. And then it's not a very vast industry, as you know, right? As a personal trainer, the industry is hard. Being in the nutrition world is really, really hard. And so I kind of delve into a couple of clinics here and there. Wasn't a good fit. I ended up finding this startup corporate wellness company, and was there for about 6 years.
Wow.
And it was all about preventative disease. So I was hired on as a coach and just kind of grew within that role, as a manager as well. So I managed coaches, and then had probably coached around, when I left, probably like several hundred clients or participants, as we called them. So I grew in that role and just really learned people, and how to talk to people, and grew, I guess, in love with the coaching role and how powerful that is. And how I think we all need a coach in every aspect of our lives, to have that person like encouraging you, holding you accountable. So I just fell in love with that. And then I decided, for many reasons, I also have a beautiful baby girl, not baby, toddler now, and wanted to just kind of transform my career so I could be a little bit more flexible, have control over my schedule. And I was also in a place of burnout, which I feel like a lot of people can understand nowadays, work burnout, corporate burnout. So it was just at a place where I needed to like say that was a great experience, but I need to part my ways. I need to grow and develop in other avenues that I was interested in. I was on LinkedIn and I found Metabolic Balance, which is one of the programs that I offer to my clients, and it just kind of fit the mold of what I wanted. And so then I just kind of started my business in April. So it's been like not that long, but yeah, that's kind of where I am now in very short form. But
it seems like a lot of
that was
ups
a lot
and downs. And like, no, that was great. No, that was great. Absolutely. That's what I asked for. A lot of
figuring out to kind of get to this point. I'm still very much figuring it out, but it hasn't changed. Like my passion hasn't changed for it.
Yeah. So what was it about nutrition versus going into actually personal training, right? Because you said you thought that perhaps you were going to do personal training, so nutrition would be a part of that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, I'm just going all in on nutrition.
Yeah.
What led to that?
Yeah. I think my interests kind of led to it, and just understanding and learning the power of food. And not to say exercise isn't important, because it definitely is, but I feel like the foundation of our health comes from what we put in our bodies, what we expose ourselves to. So I felt like that was, for me, it had more of the greater impact that I wanted to share with people.
Well, I love this idea. You said this thing, and I wrote it down because it stuck in my head. The power of food. When you say the power of food, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, my goodness. I feel like food is medicine, right? I feel like what we put in our bodies really does dictate how we think, how we feel about ourselves, how our body functions, how our organs function, you know, and it really comes down to like living the best life possible, right? I want to live a life of positive thinking, and I want to live a life where I can crawl around with my toddler and feel like energized and young and youthful. And food does that. Food has the power to heal, and food has the power to make us feel a certain way. And then also on the other spectrum as well, right? Food, if we're putting in the wrong foods into our body, it can lead to disease and complications. So it's very powerful both ways that we look at it.
It sounds like you put a strong emphasis on healthy food choices inside of your coaching practice.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think, yeah, that's part of it. And I know we'll kind of tap into this too. I want to tap into like the behavior change and thoughts behind food too, because I think a lot of times we all know what to eat, right? We all know we need to eat our fruits and vegetables and meats, but I think it's more complicated nowadays.
Let's dive into it.
The complications of it.
What?
Okay, well, one thing I can say is like I've been in the industry for several years now, and I'm still confused by it, right? Like we're constantly evolving. There's constantly new research. We're constantly being told, eat this way, eat that way. And I think the thing that I'm very passionate about with my clients is bringing back the basics and laying the foundation of food. So understanding food, which sounds really silly, but understanding what foods do in our body, and then also how to eat as well. So those are the two things that I tap into, but it's more coaching people on, yes, I provide them a meal plan and some structure for them to follow, but it's also understanding how to implement those things in your day-to-day when a lot of people have grown up being taught otherwise, right? Or grew up in a family where food wasn't accessible, like healthy food wasn't as accessible, or just wasn't top of mind, right? So I feel like I don't even know how old you are.
I'm
87?
24.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
I know I'm 30. I think I'm 37. I think I'm turning 38.
Okay, so you're older than me. So
fractionally.
How you grew up.
Okay. Careful
now. You on the spot now.
Careful. This interview is over. No, how I grew up. Go on, please.
No, I guess and I don't know how you grew up, but thinking back to your childhood versus now, I feel like as a society, we're a lot more health conscious, right? We're a lot more aware 100%. Than where we were before, right? When we were growing up. I just don't remember my parents really, not that they fed us unhealthy, but it wasn't as big as it is today.
Yeah, a huge emphasis. Yeah, I mean, it was like we're going to McDonald's on Monday and let's get some shake and bake chicken on Tuesday. And let's make them pasta Alfredo on Wednesday. And then, Thursday, I don't remember, but Friday we were going for swimming lessons. Then it's 2-for-1 pizza. Yeah. But it was just never a question. It was just like, that's the way it is. And the wild thing about that I'm trying to piece together is that I look at myself, I'm like, I think I turned out okay. Do you know what I mean? But then here's the other side of that is, even though I feel quite happy and content with how I developed, could have my development been even more optimal? Or could some of the, I'm going to label it this way, could some of my negative relationships to foods be different had I been raised differently? Yeah. Huge cans of worms.
That's a big question. And I think for a lot of people that I coach, a lot of them went through conversation, can trail things back to their childhood.
I think almost everyone.
Right? A lot of people. Yeah. So yeah, maybe not in every situation, but I would say majority of us, 100%.
I did this sales course, and this is going to sound like a left field, but I'll bring it all together, in Ohio years ago. And one of the things we talked about was how children's brain waves are in different states in different lives of their life. I believe it's theta. Your child's brain is constantly in a theta brainwave state, which means that they absorb everything from the environment the entire time, constantly. It's not like as adults where our brain waves are in a different state and like we learn way more deliberately. Children are just sponges from 0 to 5, right? That's why they can learn multiple languages, but that's where they also learn the phrases like, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, McDonald's, I'm loving it, right?
Oh, sorry, I should have caught on to that one.
Right? Okay, here we go. Nike.
just do it.
Right, there we go. Swiffer, the quicker.
Fixer-upper.
All right, picker-upper, but we were
picker-upper.
But the point I'm trying to make here
These
is
are
that
instilled things that just come to us without consciously thinking about it.
What did your mother tell you about eating food? What did my mom tell me about eating food? Clean it off your plate.
Yeah, and that is a huge one that I constantly come across.
Yeah. So like what other ones come out there that we can probably trace back to learned behaviors from when
I
kids were
think
younger?
portions is the biggest one, I would say. The cleaning of your plate and also I think a lot of like the sugar addictions now. I think that's another big one that there's a lot of like self-blame. This is another thing. There's so much self-blame between, well, I can't control my how much I eat, or I can't control these sugar cravings. But if we trace it back, it's like 10, 20, 30 years of us eating a certain way. And then all of a sudden we kind of put this expectation on ourselves that we need to change right away. And people's expectations is, I need to change immediately. And that's not always the case, right? And that's where the coaching comes in, right? Talking through it, processing it, working through it. And that's actually one of my favorite things that I love about coaching is identifying those triggers, identifying those barriers, and figuring out how to get through them. So it's years and years and years of this, these thoughts and these beliefs that sometimes we don't even really realize that are contributing to how we eat. So
it sounds like you enjoy being like that analytical coach for your people, where they get to live their lives and talk to you, but you get to stand back and be like, let me help you see what you can't see. What happens next?
And I think that's like the definition, what I learned through my years of coaching. And this is really hard because I just like to tell people what to do. And I think most people, right, we just kind of like, you need to do this, but that doesn't create behavior change. Right? So as a coach, our role is to guide you to the answer, right? For you to identify what it is. Because if you're not identifying what the issue and challenge is, me telling you, you're not going to resonate, right? And I think that's a big part, is a coach is, hopefully my clients don't know I'm doing this when I ask them certain questions, but leading them a certain way through the open-ended questions that I ask them to start identifying these triggers and barriers and then talking through those. So guiding them, not providing a solution.
I think it's such a smart way of doing things, because if we know anything from the different research on there, on the way people think, or even books from like Dale Carnegie, like How to Win Friends and Influence Money, which it's a terrible name for that book today, but it's what it was back then. It was, if you want to have people think differently or come to your way of thinking, have them feel like it was their idea to begin with. Like people have to it's like we said, people have to come to the conclusion on their own. Because people are already used to them pointing their finger, being like, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, this is what's happening.
They need to take ownership of it, right?
100%. Sorry,
No, it's okay. And have that like aha moment.
Yeah.
Me telling you to have an aha moment isn't going to give you that aha moment, right?
Yeah.
So you have to identify that.
If only the movie Inception was real, and you could like put little things in people's brains and go in there, like nutritionally work them around a little bit, go back to childhood memories.
That's genius. Rewrite everything.
AI get to start working on it. We need this stuff. We need this stuff here. So we touched earlier upon this idea that there's power in food, right? And you had made all these really great points, which is it affects my mood, it affects my energy, all things which I think we all were hoping we can improve for all of us, because who doesn't want more energy and to feel better and more empowered emotion? I think that goes absolutely go without speaking.
Yeah.
If you were to take a look at the way we eat right now, and even at a very basic level, what are the kind of foods that would tend to have, let's say, a deleterious effect on energy and mood versus foods that would have a positive effect?
Yeah. So, and I know you mentioned this off the gate, like blood sugar and insulin, and our response to that is really the answer to that question. And I think, oh man, it's such a huge topic, but I think that, what was the question?
It's okay. We were talking about blood sugar and insulin.
Yes. But your
Right.
question was,
So my question was, we talked about like which foods are going to be have the most deleterious effect, which foods are going to have the most positive effect.
right.
And I think you were getting into, well, it's not necessarily about the foods, but it's about this effect of these
Yeah,
hormones.
well, again, to balance our blood sugar and to balance our insulin, which I can explain in more detail in a second, there are certain foods that do that, right? But I think in our society now, we're very carbohydrate based, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's one of the bigger challenges that I think we're all facing now is like the high carbohydrate diet. And the opposite, right? Where there's no carbohydrates at all. I think the biggest thing in terms of fueling ourselves properly is making sure we're getting our macronutrients. So we're not eliminating anything. We're getting proteins, we're getting fats, which stabilizes our blood sugar, and we're also getting carbohydrates in there as well, right? But I think...
So just want to make sure the microphone is available. That's all. Sorry about
Imagine it doesn't get anything.
that. Imagine. You're not
Let's
saying.
start over.
Goodness. Sorry to stop you there. Make sure your fats, our proteins, or carbohydrates. Fats can help stabilize blood sugar.
Yeah. Proteins, fat.
I want to put it. Do you want to put it edited right here?
No, it's a big question, and I'm like, how do I, dissect this a little bit?
I mean to put so much pressure on your shoulder.
No pressure at all. I just want to explain this topic because this is so important. But yeah, I think making sure that how much we eat is also going to impact that as well. The quality of food that we're eating and how often we're eating. That's the biggest, I think, misconception. Something that I've learned most recently in terms of like how to obtain the best metabolic health is by not, I think this, again, it comes back to like different things that we hear, right? And in the fitness industry, you eat something and you have your protein shake right after and then something high protein. And then, I think we've all heard that before, right? Yeah. Protein constantly throughout the day. But I think a big thing in terms of blood sugar and insulin balance is making sure we're having like 3 solid meals a day. So again, that goes down to like how to eat, right? And ideally what that looks like is to eat every 5 hours. And this is on average, right? There's some people who are type 1 diabetics or other health conditions, right? That you obviously want to eat according to that. But for the majority of person who doesn't have any kind of chronic conditions, we would want to be eating every 5 hours. The more that we have those, even if it is a protein snack in between your lunch and dinner, let's just say, protein still elevates our blood sugar, which spikes our insulin, right? That insulin is going to be in a response to our high blood sugar. So even if it's something healthy, even if it's just a protein, it's still going to spike the blood sugar. So it's even identifying even sometimes healthy foods and even like small quantities will spike that blood sugar, and that's going to result in an imbalance, a hormonal imbalance. So
you had said, you listed a few different things
I listed
there
a
that
lot
really
there.
that was great. Let's see if we can recap it.
Yeah.
So we talked about timing of meals. That was where we ended it, every 5 hours. And then we talked about
let's say like being flexible a little bit, like 4 to not going longer than 6 hours unless we're going overnight and doing some type of fasting, right? But
so 4 to 6 hours, 5 kind of averaging.
Yeah.
But be flexible.
Yeah.
And treat yourself right. So we got timing.
No one's perfect.
No one's perfect.
No.
No one's perfect.
That's an ideal world, though. Yeah.
Wow, I love this.
I keep
No, I think
I need a drink.
I think we're having fun.
Of water.
Let's get more vodka.
I need a drink.
Pure vodka.
It's good old bubbly.
A bubbly vodka.
A bubbly vodka. Right. No, it's not bubbly vodka. Some people drink that. It's just straight bubbly.
Just straight vodka. So it's water. Eating every 4 to 6 hours on average of 5.
Yeah.
And then we talked about being aware of your macronutrients, the right amount of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins.
Yeah.
And assume that's individualized for each person.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we talked about the quality of the foods as well, right? Are we eating, we're eating like 20 grams of carbohydrates in an apple, or we're eating like 20 grams of like Skittles, right? We all know the Skittles are probably better for us.
I think we all know at this point that
rainbow.
Whole Foods right? And this is the thing, like, we all know this stuff. We all know that we need the veggies and the lean proteins, right? And fats, like we all know this.
Yeah.
Right? But
so let me ask you a question with all these different things in mind, because there's so many different things we could play with, all these different variables.
Yeah.
How does someone who lives a very stressful lifestyle make this work for them? Because I can see someone saying, I've got a kid at home, I'm running my own business, I'm taking care of the home, I've got a ton of things going on. How do I make this, not to be punny, digestible? It's terrible.
It's awful.
It's so good though.
Yeah, and I would say that's the majority of people nowadays, right?
Yeah.
We're just constantly on the go. And I think that's also a reason why we're in the place that we are at as society, as like for our health, and how much we're all struggling is, I think, the root cause of a lot of our challenges is we're so busy, right? Where it's hard to prioritize cooking food. Yeah. It's hard to prioritize going to the grocery store. When you're that busy, those things become at the bottom of your to-do list. So I think, and this is where coaching is really important. And as a coach, I'm there to kind of I want to identify what their biggest challenges are, what their week looks like, and help kind of plan through that. So I don't know what your question was. I don't know if I answered it right.
I think we get there. I asked, how does somebody who is stressful make this work for them, right?
I think it comes down to their expectation, and I think it takes time, right? To come down from a stressful lifestyle, it's going to take time to figure out what I can let go of. And that's really hard for some people because there's a lot of things that we just don't want to change, right? But ultimately it comes down to, how can I prioritize this? We can't prioritize several things, right?
Yeah.
So we have to start shifting that a little bit and just identifying what things can we kind of put last, right? Not last, but just reprioritize. So that's one thing, is just identifying it's going to take some time, identifying what things we can kind of shift around to reprioritize. And then having like a specific plan in place, which is what I provide my clients, a specific go-to meal plan that's specifically tailored to their blood values. I don't think I explained that earlier when I was talking about metabolic balance, but I create a meal plan based upon 36 different blood values. So it's completely tailored to not their blood type, but different blood values in the body, 36. So they have a concrete answer as to what foods work best for their body. So that kind of simplifies things sometimes when you know what foods I should be buying. And then I teach how to kind of create meals, provide some recipes. So there's a lot that goes into it, right? Yeah. So I find that for someone to do that by themselves, it's a lot of work.
Sure.
Especially if they don't have the tools and resources, and maybe people to just talk through things with. So I find that to be one thing that's very valuable in terms of having a coach by your side, is they're able to help you reprioritize and simplify things for you.
I have to imagine that a lot of people that find you have reached almost like a breaking point where it's, I know I can't keep going on like this much longer, because if I do, whether they express it outwardly or not, the future ain't good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's got to be tough.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, when it comes to like those kind of like personalities, how do you help them? I don't want to say force the
sometimes easier though.
Yeah.
It's sometimes because they're already in that place of taking action. Most of them are, right? So, it's sometimes harder when someone's kind of in that, what we call pre-contemplation phase. Right. When they're like, oh, I want to change, but I'm not ready. Or the next step is, I want to change, or I've made this one step. But people who are at a place where their health is on the line, their priority level is at the highest, right? So they're willing to let go of things. So sometimes that is the easiest.
I guess I never thought about it that way, but it actually makes perfect sense that if someone is in a place where they're in dire straits, they're literally in a place where it's like, I'm sinking or swimming at this point, and I can't afford to sink. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm all in. Yeah.
So those people tend to put their nutrition on a higher priority, right? So for the people, what happens when you've got people who maybe don't have it as, they say it's a top priority, but they're not really making it a priority?
Yeah.
What does the coaching look like to either get them more involved in their own health or to help them take more actions towards making a positive change? Not that we can control people,
that's a good question. And I think my answer to that would be to understand what their motivators are. In my first session, I asked people what their why is. Why did you contact me? There was a reason why you reached out. So I really dive into what is your why, what's driving you here. What are you, whether it be wanting to feel different, wanting to look different, wanting, those blood labs to come back different next year at your doctor's appointment. Like, what is it? Why are you wanting to speak to me? And I really hone down into that and using that as a reminder, because a lot of times it sounds exciting to start a new adventure, right? So it's constantly having that kind of reminding that person and holding them accountable to what they wanted.
Now, do you find it's difficult to have people share that information? The only reason I ask is because everyone's different, and it does take a certain amount of comfort and trust to expose one's deep fears and concerns to another human being. I mean, I see it in my line of work, and I have to imagine you see it in yours as well.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
I think it's one of the things that I probably enjoy the most is like really understanding the person. And I think in our industry, people want to be heard. Right?
I think people want to be heard for the most part all the time.
Regardless. But people don't want to be judged for their past or for, what their health goals are. People are willing. I think depending upon how you proposition, your coaching and I think when you come from like a really genuine place of wanting to help people and you're vulnerable and you're sharing your past experiences, people tend to open up. But I think that's like the biggest, one of my focuses is really trying to understand a person to their core.
That's why we love movies and television shows, right? Is because we see the story of the hero's journey, where at the very beginning they have this problem they can't overcome, much like how you'd have a client who's trying to have more energy, lose weight, bounce back from a disease state they've had a hard time with. Most people have seen maybe like the Star Wars movies or something like that, but the whole idea is that you've got this hero and they've got this problem they can't do themselves, so they have to go on this journey where they learn all the information, overcome obstacles, learn new traits, create and find new allies. And there's always in any movie, if you watch it close enough, especially superhero movies, there's always a mentor. Right? Like you can pick anything you want. There's always going to be a mentor. Just Star Wars is easy because like Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is a big nerdy thing. Is there something, a common ground we might both know about?
Not on anything like that.
I mean, like it sounds weird, but like The Office, right? Like as weird as Michael Scott is, the character, he's bumbling. He has moments where he does mentor all like everyone in the show, right? Like everyone seems to learn from him, even if he's not always intentional with it. But the point I'm trying to make is I can see where you're coming from, because these people come to see you because they're, whether they know it or not, they're on this first leg of the journey and they need somebody to help champion them and understand them, as like what you said, and then in that way guide them through what they need to know. Use the force, Luke. Do you know what I mean? Use the measuring scale, Louisa. Do you know what I mean?
I think one thing I like to kind of point out too is that we need to go through those challenges, right? To like create change.
100%.
And I think a lot of times though, and I think this is where when you're doing a diet, let's say, by yourself, you're just wanting this quick outcome and not really setting ourselves up thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go through this journey of messing up and then I'm going to succeed. Where when you're by yourself and you're on a diet plan, you're not thinking that way, right? So when you have a coach, when this is like a really important milestone, and I'm excited when people get to that point where like their weight stalled or there's a hiccup in the road. That's where I step in, right? It's to kind of, get them to acknowledge it and then work around it. So we have to expect those challenges in order to succeed, right?
I love it.
So That's one of my favorite things is like, you got a challenge, amazing. Let's work through it, because I guarantee you've seen these challenges many other times, and that's why you didn't proceed forward. This is where you would have stopped. So that's a breakthrough moment that I'm like, let's sit in this. Let's sit in this like uncomfortable challenge.
See, that's beautiful, because I would say most novice coaches in any endeavor, not everyone, but any endeavor, would see that kind of moment as the coach working with a student or a client as something where it's like an OF, what do I do now kind of moment, or like if this doesn't go smoothly, then this person's going to not like me, they're going to leave me, they're not going to do their goals, I'm going to fail them, or whatever their own self-negative emotion, self-talk that would come up in that moment. But you have the opposite perspective. You're like, I know we're going to hit some roadblocks. I know there's going to be some speed bumps. This is a rocky road, everyone. Buckle up, Buttercup. But guess what? We're going to do it together.
Buckle up for the ride.
Thelma, Louise, and we're driving off that cliff together. You know what? It's going to be a happy ending this time.
It's so true. I'm sure some people that work with me probably did not really anticipate this like journey that they were going to go on, but that's how I view it. It's just a constant, as long as we're going up, there can be those, those highs and dips there. So yeah, I encourage those moments. That's the only way that we grow and learn and move forward.
Yeah, it's like that graph. I'm sure you've seen it on Instagram or something like that before, but it's like start here, end here, and it just like start. And then it just like ending up there. It really is. It really is, it's like so that.
True. Yeah.
Isn't it wild that we as human beings make ourselves so wrong for like mild setbacks?
I know.
Right?
And
it's bananas.
It is. And I think it speaks a lot into like just diet culture in general, I think has set us up to be like, okay, if you start this and you're going to lose this, and this is, these are the steps that you need to take to get to here. But it's like, it's just not the case. And so we're setting ourselves up to get to the end of whatever program or diet or whatever we've started. But we're setting ourselves up to fail, right? Not acknowledging the fact that we need to fail along the way.
Isn't it wild that we just said, hey, like we're gonna get there, but we're gonna fail a whole bunch first. And guess what? It's cool, because we're gonna learn some lessons. And it's gonna be great. Yeah. And once you're there, because you're gonna have gone through all the hardships, your brain's gonna have changed. There's gonna be some neuroplasticity. And guess what? Those changes are gonna be more long lasting. You're not even to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I remember never eating, like consistently eating vegetables or fruit or anything growing up. And then I started doing precision nutrition. This is a program I did a while back. And like rule number one was just like have vegetables at every meal. I'm like, okay, I'll try this. But now it's like every time I have a meal, I have vegetables. If I'm going to have like McDonald's takeout, like, carrots and celery, like, but it's just like it's my autopilot now. I can't not do it. Right. And that is I think that's the power of doing something repetitively, but also failure. I don't want to dominate this conversation. I'll say one last thing.
No, you're good. Dominate.
I'm on fire right now.
I know you're talking. I know we're like talking about forth, but I've been dominating. So
no, we're just chatting.
Okay.
That's what happens when you interview somebody. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. The beautiful thing is 8:43, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm usually in bed in like 15 minutes from now. So I'm just like, woo! Like
I'm the same.
This is wonderful. Well, so
way past our bedtime.
Our time. That's it. I won't keep you too much longer. I have some other things I want to definitely cover here, so we'll be more succinct. But there's a gentleman named Andrew Huberman. He's got a podcast called the Huberman Lab, and he's a neuroscientist from Stanford, and he breaks up everything to neuroscience. And he talks about how if adult humans especially want to learn, there's a couple things that have to happen. One, adult humans, because our brain's gone through
conditioning and.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just said conditioning.
Yeah. Well, once we hit the age of 25, our brain's fully developed and our neuroplasticity slows down. So our requirements for changing our brain and our ability to think and learn is different than when we're 15 and we're sponges, right? But what he suggests and says is that the research shows that you need two things. You need to be frustrated and a little upset and aggravated, because that actually brings about the neurochemicals in your brain that allow the neuro connections to happen, which means you do have to fail. And he suggests 15 to 20% of the time you have to be missing it. So if you've got like 5 pretty good days of eating, but then you had like one day where you had like a meal that wasn't the best, that's okay, because that's that little bit of failure that you need to move forward. And the second thing he says is just like you need some downtime and just like calm and rest, so your body can just reflect on a subconscious level and amalgamate the information, which I thought was interesting. But it kind of goes into what you're talking about, which is we got to fail forward a little bit here, and then like step back, reevaluate a little bit, chill out about it, and then we go forward again. And it's crazy, but it's such a simple, beautiful framework. And as long as you know the details about the nutrients, you're going to be good, I think.
Yeah. All I can say is because I wouldn't. That's a great way of putting it.
Gold star for me.
Yeah.
Glenn won. Bree.
But like you don't really think about it when you're like, okay, I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna start becoming healthier, right? No. Your mind doesn't go to that, but that's behavior change, right? And that's the foundation of us making changes. So
I'm so happy that you're doing your coaching the way you are. Because I think a lot of people speak to this, and I'll tell you my personal anecdote is, you have that one voice in your head who says, you've been so good all week. You can have the brownie. Go have the brownie. The second you eat it, the other half of you says, why'd you do that, you fat piece of crap? Right? And it's so weird that you've got these different parts of your like subconscious and ego telling you different things. One giving you permission, one like slapping you on the wrist. And it's just wild. But it's great to have someone in your corner like you who's just like, these are all normal things. That's okay. We're going to figure this out. Let's do a little bit of reprogramming in some way, which your form. And by the way, here's what you should eat because it's appropriate for your body right now.
Yeah, normalizing those things. Because like that sitting in that guilt is only going to push you backwards, right? Those negative thoughts and emotions. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Like, why did I cave in? Like, you will sit there. I'm sure you felt it. I felt it. You just sit there and being like, why did I do that? And you just, you sit in this like self-deprecating thoughts. And how do you get out of that, right? So it's, normalizing it. And I also think too, the plan that I have a lot of my clients on, obviously it's tailored individualized to their body's needs. But when you fuel your body properly, when we're eating properly in terms of like how often we need to be eating, we can minimize those moments of not completely eliminate, because we're all going to have cravings, but we can create the confidence and power to be able to kind of work through that, because your body is fueled, right? It's getting the nutrients that it's needing at appropriate times throughout the day, where it should minimize those heightened cravings, right? So that's another thing too, right? It's behavior, but it's also like the food and the timing that's going to help not put you in that place.
They kind of like fuel each other. Like I have the food that I'm eating, like I'm because of them getting the right foods, my blood sugar's stable, so I don't have my cravings. I eat more good food, I've got more energy, and now I'm not, and it keeps going in like a nice positive.
And again, we're gonna have that slip up, right?
Sure.
But that's exactly, it's that nice circle that we wanna.
Yeah, or you can get ahead and like sometimes you plan it, right? Like sometimes you plan, you're like, I know I'm gonna have a little bit of junk food today.
Yeah.
That's okay because I'm a human being and I'm getting together with my friends. And we're gonna have a good time. And that's okay.
And that's like funny enough too. There's a lot of people that, again, it's more like maybe the all or none mentality, but when they're seeing really good results, there's also like a point in the coaching where I have to coach people that it's okay to eat a little bit of junk food.
Yeah, because you don't want to be all in one direction or all in the other, right? Like we don't be seafood diet.
That can be a slippery slope too, right? If we actually, when I go through their metabolic balance plan, we actually incorporate, it depends on the person and what their weight goals are, what their health goals are, but we do incorporate a treat, not a cheat meal, but a treat meal. So that there is still that healthy relationship with food where we're able to, I wouldn't say overindulge, but like indulge in something that we enjoy. And I feel like we should be able to do that, right?
Absolutely.
And then have a plan to get right back on track.
Of course.
But a lot of people don't want to have their treat meal. And a lot of people are scared that it's going to kind of throw them off track, right? Which is fair. But that's important too, to be able to like not just go to kind of that one extreme.
Well, it's all or none in either end,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
the people who
yeah.
are just like, I'm gonna eat whatever I want. Like that's probably not healthy for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
But then people are like, I'm never going to touch a carbohydrate ever again. You're probably like, that's probably also not a healthy way
Yeah,
of looking at it. Do
yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like you don't want to have a piece of cake at your kid's birthday party
Yeah,
or
yeah.
that kind of thing. I think we could go on for a little while
We
here.
could go on forever.
I've got 2 quick questions for
Yeah.
you. Number 1. What one book would you gift everybody you know?
Ooh.
Curveball, I know.
That's really good. So, there are 2 books, and obviously right now my focus is when I'm working with clients, it's like type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetics, weight, obviously, metabolic syndrome, right? Which is classified as like people who have like large waist circumference, high cholesterol, low HDL. I'm going on in terms of specifics, but this is a very popular demographic. People who have high triglyceride levels, imbalanced blood sugar. Anyways, so with that being in mind and the importance of blood sugar and insulin control, I would say Dr. Fung is a Toronto-based doctor. Have you heard of him?
I have heard of Dr. Fung. Yeah, I have.
And he has 2 books. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it.
I don't recall.
One that's oh, did you hear that?
I didn't.
Is it okay that I'm looking this up right now?
I'm all right with that.
I just want to have the correct
It's all right.
name of the book.
Dr. Fung sounds like a fun guy. I think
there's one. It's one that's on obesity and just the obesity code.
Yeah.
And then there's the diabetes code.
Right.
So those 2 books
have
so many great. It's just like the fundamentals of being able to control weight and diabetes that anyone without any like nutrition knowledge would be able to grasp and understand, and that's just really powerful. Like the research and the scientific evidence behind it, I would say that those would be my two.
Got it. You can say whatever you want.
2.
They're open-ended questions. You can give me 12 if you want to. If
No,
you give more than that, I cut you off.
We'll stick with the obesity code.
Yeah.
And the diabetic code. Yeah.
The gentleman, we got him. We got there. Oh boy, if you thought that question was hard, you're gonna hate this next one.
Gosh.
What one piece of advice would you give yourself if you could meet yourself from 5 years ago?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think I said that correctly.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I wish you gave me these beforehand so I could think about it.
That's the whole point, is that you get to just like
spot.
whatever your heart tells you is probably the correct answer.
Oh, that's such a good question. And like, there's so much I would tell myself 5 years ago.
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I would say like be okay to fail.
Oh, cool. Mine was the
and
same
like I
thing.
hate that because I feel like that's so
No, it's perfect.
cliche.
It's perfect.
And everyone says that right now, but
Perfect. Mine was the same thing.
Be okay to fail.
Yeah, why not, right? Be okay to fail. Mine was something similar. Mine was just like, chill, bro, which is the same thing, which is like, why are you getting stressed out over things that aren't working all the time, right?
Yeah. I think I would just, I feel like 5 years ago, oh my gosh, the pressure of like life, right? You're in your like early 30s. Well, for me, that's what it was. And pressure of career and needing, setting these high expectations for myself, which is great. But just, like it just kind of minimizes the joy factor sometimes out of life when you have these really high expectations for yourself and when you don't meet them. So just like enjoying the journey.
It's so interesting because one of the first things that you started with there was like, stop worrying so much about career. And the number one regret of the dying, this is from a book about a woman who would worked in hospices and like end of care life. She said that one of the regret of the dying was not spending enough time with family. The second one was spending too much time at work. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
So before you go, then we wrap up. We got you something on behalf of the podcast. Go ahead, open that bad boy up.
Thanks, Glenn.
Should
I be scared of what this is?
No, you shouldn't. I don't think you have one. You have one, but not this kind of one. So you can open it up and see.
This kind of one. Okay.
It should open up from the side quite easily.
Oh.
Do you know what this is?
Yeah, it's a mug of some sort.
Yeah? What kind of mug it is? This is the only mug of this kind in the world.
Am I gonna break it?
I hope not. God, the anticipation right now is absolutely killing me. You should be able to rip it out the side there. How can you? Oh my gosh! You should be able to rip it out. Yeah, there we go. I know, gangster, right? How gangster is that mug?
This is great.
Right?
I don't know if people can see this.
It's okay.
This is my.
It's your company's name on a mug. That's right. I hope you're right-handed because for whatever reason it didn't print on the other side, so people can see it out there.
That's so great. Thank you so much.
Congratulations on starting your business and everything.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions and the time.
I know you like coffee and tea. I think you like one of
do.
those two things, so I figured that'd be a good fit.
Thank you.
Of course.
So thoughtful.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
Before I let you go,
yeah,
where can everyone find you?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram, Brianne Scott Nutrition, or my website, briannescott.com. Those are 2 platforms that I'm using right now.
Beautiful.
More so on Instagram, but yeah.
That's all right. Yeah. On Instagram, check out Brianne Scott Nutrition. Thanks so much for doing this. This is awesome.
Thank you so much.
Slap hand. Perfect. Outro music cue, and we're good. Laugh into the sunset, and we're good. Good job. Boom. Right there. Great stuff.
You think that was okay?
I think it was amazing.
Okay.